Goeiedag, we gaan dit. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. And yes, it's happening. Everybody knows, in the world of rugby, right? If you lose Rugby World Cup, it's never because the opposition is better than you. It's never because your team sucked, right? It's always because the game of rugby is wrong and the laws needs to be changed so that the game can play the way you want to play, so you will never lose the Rugby World Cup again. Everybody knows that's how this world works, right? The absolute shameless, the absolute disgraceful attempt to basically say, hey, Springboks, you won the World Cup, but we think the law played into your favor, right? We're going to change that so you can't cheat like you did in 2023 again, right? Because that's what the Rugby World Council is considering in May 9th that is coming up. It's actually fucking disgraceful, and it's actually so absurd how they could even so blatantly, right, come up with these changes to the game that targets directly at the Springboks. It's actually fucking shameful. Do these people have no shame? Do they have no cheeks, right? They have no fucking shame in just targeting everything that the Springboks did to win the Rugby World Cup and say that has to be changed and the laws of rugby has to be changed to accommodate for the losers of Rugby World Cup. It's actually fucking absurd. So yes, let's look at the proposed meeting that is going to look at changing. So first of all, the big one, the kicking duel, there's currently a law that says the player can be put onside by the opposition player if they advance more than 5 meters. So we saw some of this boring kicking, and they're gonna remove that. So now you can only be put onside by someone from your own team. So I thought that has always been the law, but hey, apparently your opposition can put you onside. I didn't even know this law existed. They will be removed. It's already been tried in Super Rugby, but that's another thing. The next one I think is fine too. The croc row. I personally don't think the croc row is that dangerous because I personally have trained about 5 years in jiu-jitsu, in MMA. And last time I checked, right, in the UFC, nobody has ever won a UFC fight with a croc roll. Ever. Or injured from a croc roll. There's plenty of people has been submitted by a neck roll, which is also called an anaconda choke, and that is already being outlawed in rugby. So a neck roll is already outlawed in rugby, but the croc roll, there has been one injury at the Rugby World Cup. I think it was a Namibian guy or one of the smaller teams. He was just caught in the wrong position. Shit happens, but yeah. Some people say that the Darcy Swain on Quinton Tupaia was a croc roll. It was not. Darcy Swain literally slammed his shoulder into his leg from the side. Was not really a croc roll at all. That's that's completely not the technique for a croc roll. So they're gonna remove that. Okay, whatever. But it just tells me that the people that come up with these ideas really don't know what they're talking about. If you ask any actual submission specialists, they will tell you the croc roll is pretty fucking safe. Don't ask me, go ask someone. Go ask someone with an expert, okay? That's my understanding from 5 years of training. I never submitted anyone with a fucking croc roll. I've never seen anybody being submitted with a croc roll or injured in a croc roll. So yeah, you talk to a specialist and maybe get back to it instead of just coming up with these ideas. And yes, here it is. The first point. Remove scrum option from a free kick to save time. Remember Damien Willemse, the greatest Springbok in the history of the Springboks, called a scrum against France, right? After taking a mark. According to the law of rugby, taking a mark is basically allowing it's called you are given a free kick. That's why you're allowed to call for a scrum, because with the free kick option, you are allowed to take scrum. Also, if you take a mark and you don't take the kick in insufficient time, so they could still do the kick, because the law actually says that if you take the mark and you don't kick the ball out or take the free kick essentially within a minute, then you goes to a scrum to the team that has the ball. So you can still technically have that, but yeah, it is basically saying you can't just go mark scrum please. You can't do that anymore for the Springboks. So that's the number one move that they're gonna to basically hammer down on the Springboks in that regard. The 20-minute red card, something that everybody wanted, is still gonna be looked at. So that's not gonna be it's something that everybody wanted for a very long time. That's still not gonna be happening. But what is being considered that nobody has complained except for the idiots in fucking, I don't know, the losers from the fucking other teams, right? They're going to be looking at how replacements are to be done because there's obviously too many forwards in the back line, right? They literally mentioned the role becoming increasingly vital in rugby with teams putting more and more forwards on the bench. They're going to look at how that needs to be adjusted. So, hey, they may just set the limit, no more than 5 forwards on the bench. See you later, Rassie Erasmus. Go back and rethink of another way of winning Rugby World Cup, right? Like, it's just like so blatant, so stupid. I mean, if you want to play, it's funny because a lot of teams has tried to play 6-2 on the bench and end up with disastrous results, right? Like suddenly one of their fucking backs gets taken off for injury and they have nobody else left. Nobody can cover the position and they're in ditch in a pile of shit, right? And yes, I'm talking about fucking Eddie Jones when he was doing this for England, right? And yeah, and now it's like, all right, let's just fucking change the laws so they can't do that, guys. I mean, we don't have the talent, but let's just make sure the other teams can't do it so we can equalize the game for everybody else. So yeah, there it is, guys. There it is. They're gonna... It's shameful. It's actually quite shameful to just like change the law and let's call it speed up the game, and just directly target at the key points that another team has been successfully at winning the World Cup. Let's just completely cripple that, right? So they can't do that again, and it's better for the sport, guys. It's better for the sport. Yes. It's disgraceful. Anyway, let's finish up with the South African news, and we're gonna talk about the fucking Wallabies, okay? So Andre Esterhuizen has signed with the Sharks. He has left the Premiership with Marcus Smith's team, Harlequins, and the Springboks has announced another alignment camp. And there was some big talks about this guy, Daimani, was not selected. I haven't been watching. I'm sorry. I don't know this guy's performances. But I do know that the Springboks are very, very stacked and very, very competitive. And there's some talks that basically he wasn't selected for the alignment camp. He's going to be potentially going overseas to Japan, right? Which I think is kind of stupid. Rassie Erasmus, they're very stats-driven. Like, if you know how the Springboks operates, they're stat-driven. They will look at all your stats, dominant tackles. They're going to use, dominant tackles, ball carries. No, they don't just look at, like, how many tries you scored. They don't just look at, how many times you look good on TV, right? They looked at exactly how many stats you've done, like how many dominant tackles, that sort of things to make a decision. And if Rassie Erasmus hasn't selected you, it's absolutely not because he's biased or doesn't like you. He literally said in his interview that we just don't see that he's complete package yet. He's still got a bit to go to make up to the Springbok level. And also in a loose forward position for the Springboks, it's super competitive, man. Like, you can't just be expecting to walk in and get handed the number 6 jersey. It's just not gonna happen. It's a Springboks. They have their reserve flankers. It's like number 4. Like, if you rank all the flankers in the world, like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, they're all just like Springboks. Like, their reserve Springboks flankers are better than other world's starting flankers. Like, it's just so competitive in that position. You can't really just be like, oh yeah, I'm not selected, I'm going to Japan. So yeah, go for it. Go to Japan, dude. Like, it's just, Rassie Erasmus would not just be like, oh my God, let's keep this guy and give him a spot when he's not ready for the team, which is good. It means that it's merit-based. It's not just, tick a box. So yes, let's talk about Australian rugby. Let's talk about the absolute fucking dumpster fire that is happening right now. So obviously Australian rugby, Hamish McLennan, the former chairman, was part of this deal. $6 million for Joseph Swalii. Exactly who? Who the fuck is Joseph Swalii? I don't know either. In fact, ironically, the first time I ever watched rugby league in like 20 years, right, is because I wanted to say who this Joseph Swalii guy is and like, why is it worth $6 fucking million? Apparently it was 4.8. Now it's actually 6. Nobody knows. They just keep giving more money or something. I don't know what's going on, right? So I watched this $6 million man play for the Sydney Roosters. It is like, I did not see $6 million. Like, he's nothing, not anywhere near to Israel Folau. And he's never played State of Origin. Now, he couldn't make into the Australian rugby league national team, so he plays for Samoa. Hey, I don't think you guys think, oh, he likes his heritage, man. Born in Australia, dude. Born in Australia. And yeah, couldn't make it the team. Decided to play for Samoa. So yeah, I can't wait. And by the way, this guy's going to be debuting at the Lions Tour, you know. He's signed to start next year. He's going to have like 1 season of Super Rugby with Waratahs, and he's going to debut at the Lions Tour. I can't wait for this disaster. And yeah, with that, all that money being shit down the drain, they're still going to commit to his deal. He's not worth $6 million. I don't care how good he is in the future. Maybe he will be worth $6 million after like 5 years, you know, playing rugby and actually learn how to play. Other than maybe he will be worth $6 million one day, but today he's not worth $6 million. And with that being said, the talents in Australia is just going left and right. There's so many talents are just like heading overseas, right? Just this week, like this recent time, there's so many talents are going to be leaving, and Rugby Australia needs to fucking step up and do something. I don't care if you need to cancel this deal because you have no money left and get more money out to retain the players that are going overseas, right? I don't care if all of your fucking CEOs and chairmen and fucking management take a 50% pay cut, okay? You gotta do something to stop the fucking bleeding, because this is absolutely not acceptable. Like, the fact that you have a Lions Tour coming up and the Rugby World coming up, and you still can't keep talent staying in playing the game locally in the country, speaks how fucking badly the business is being operated. And if you can't get more money out, take a pay cut. Sack some of those fucking chairmans, managements, whatever. Take that money and give that to the players. Because I don't care, because you are on your knees right now, Rugby Australia. If you don't dig out of this hole in the next 4 years, it's over. It's over. You have the Lions Tour. Next Lions Tour is 12 years away. Next Rugby World Cup, God knows how long that's going to take. Now 20 years away. It's over. The game is done. Super Rugby is done. So you pull your fucking selves together and retain the players, right? Last week we already talked about Jordi Patea looking at considering to play Rugby League. Because, yeah, Rugby League has now opened up a salary cap exempt for the clubs for the rugby union players. They have salary cap, right? And they said, if you bring in a rugby union player, the salary cap exempt for them. Because of this fucking stupid deal that Hamish McLennan and the idiots at Rugby Australia made last year. Because the Rugby League is like, oh wow, Rugby Union really wants to come out and poach our players. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. And we're going to try our best to poach some union players just because you started this. So stupid. So yeah, I don't care if all of your fucking management have to take a 50% pay cut. You better get this sorted out. Because there are more and more people lining up to go overseas. Tupou, like I said, I've talked about this already. And if you watch this my channel regularly, Tupou, I knew it when he went to the Rebels. Everybody knows if you go to the Rebels, you're just waiting for your career to wind down and then get exported overseas, right? Everybody's know it. Everybody knows that's why you go to the Rebels. And Tupou, sure enough, I think he wants to play Tonga in 4 years' time anyway, so probably just let him go, right? He's probably going to go overseas. There's some talks that Leinster is looking at getting him through. I mean, if the Wallabies don't want to fork out more money, I don't blame him wanting to go overseas. Again, Max Jorgensen is someone who Rugby League actually wanted, and Rugby Union did a good job to retain him. Now he wants to go back to NRL because the NRL now has extra money to offer him. Again, it's just like one of the most talented players that's coming through the ranks. It's going to be gone. He's going to be going. So yeah, Rugby Australia, I will recommend you cancel Swali's deal and just give the money to these players because it's fucking not worth it. Swali is a fucking winger, mate. He's not going to save Rugby Australia being a fucking winger. And this guy, okay, is Izaia Perese. First of all, this guy is a fucking piece of shit, okay? Izaia Perese, you're a fucking piece of shit. Your life was in the fucking dumps. Your career was practically over before Rugby Australia giving you a lifeline. You know why? Because he was charged with drug possessions. He was in Rugby League, charged with drug possessions, sacked by his team, dropped by his team. He went to court, found guilty, but the court actually said that a conviction would have serious impact on his ability to further his sport career overseas, which is why they didn't actually give him didn't give him a guilty conviction, despite the fact that he was indeed guilty. And they taken into account very early plea of guilty and remorse, and sentenced him to 18 months or whatever, right? And so the 18-month sentence has been reduced to 100 hours of community service, and no conviction was recorded. So this guy is literally a convicted criminal, right? Izaia Perese, a literally convicted criminal for drug charges, drug possession. I think it was dealing drugs. And he's given a lifeline by the Wallabies, given a lifeline by Rugby Australia, and he's just going to be like, thanks, guys. I'm going overseas. Fuck you all. Yeah, Perese, here's what I think about you. Fuck you. Good luck overseas. And dude, enjoy. Enjoy your fucking shitty life. You piece of shit. This is what happens. This is what happens when you I don't know. In an ironic way, Rugby Australia fucking deserve this, right? Disgraceful. Fucking disgraceful people. Dalgunu, a guy he's probably gonna go overseas somewhere. He's currently at the Rebels. I mean, I don't blame him. He had he's actually hasn't been playing for the Rebels because of an financial dispute that he has a reallocation fee. He used to play for the Reds. They reallocated him to the Rebels. The reallocation fee was not picked up by the club that was promised, because obviously they fucking went bankrupt. They haven't got the money to pay it. So there's a bit of dispute for that. So if Rugby Australia will take up the tab, might be able to keep him, but otherwise he's probably not going to be playing and looking for options overseas as well. So yeah, Joe Schmidt has already talked about how long he's going to spend staying in Australia. Depends on the success of the Wallabies, and he has made it very clear that the talent pool is extremely fickle, and Joseph Smith has basically resorted to saying, rugby is a game that's more than just talent. There's a lot of basic stuff we're going to do right consistently, like intelligence and IP, like, the IP in the game. So, like, just being able to play rugby smartly and just getting the basics right, he thinks that is, it's a good point. He does think that there's a massive talent leak in Australian rugby, but he's just going to try focusing on the basic stuff. And he's put it really nicely, like, the talent is just icing on the top of hard work and being able to understand the game, being able to play the game with intelligently. So he kind of like made it sound a lot better than it is. But yeah, Joseph Smith, if anybody can do it, you can do it, mate. I mean, I don't blame you if things don't go right for you. Schmidt had brought in Laurie Fisher, a well-respected Brumbies coach. For me, I don't know why you were bringing any Brumbies assistant coaches, because the Brumbies performance has been pretty poor. And a lot of the Brumbies players for the Wallabies hasn't been performing for me personally. So maybe Laurie Fisher would probably go a little bit harder. Yeah, probably. Well, yeah, obviously it's probably not his fault. I've blamed him in the past before, but I mean, I just, anyway, let's move on. I think he's definitely a experienced coach and has been in the Wallabies fold for quite a while. So yeah, apparently the British and Irish Redcoats are coming. The tickets on sale is already on sale last week or like yesterday. Did you know this? I didn't know. Have you bought your tickets? I haven't. So yes, the Redcoats are coming to flog us next year. I can't wait. Speaking of people getting flogged, let's move on to the Six Nations. Italy has beaten Wales for the and given Wales the wooden spoon. And Warren Gatland immediately after the game has offered to the chief of Wales Rugby that he's going to be resigning. The chief of Rugby has come out and said that they're not immediately going to consider getting rid of Warren Gatland. Warren Gatland is signed to 2027 for the Rugby World Cup, but she is going to consider that Gatland's they're going to have to do a review and see what's going forward. But it doesn't sound like they're just going to take his resignation. It's not that he wanted to resign. It's that he's saying, hey, look, I'm happy to resign. I'm happy to resign if you guys want me to resign. Things hasn't gone well for us. So he's basically put his hand up and taken responsibility for the team. Italy has handed Wales the wooden spoon. Really well done. 2 wins, 1 draw. Almost could have won that third game as well. Ending like a 9-year wooden spoon drought. And really, really well done for them. There was a bit of a ref mic picked up by one of the between the referee, Matthew Renaud, and Jenkins, the Wales waterboy assistant. And it was just a bit of basically, he came on and told the referee there was a high tackle. And the referee's like, you do your job, I'll do mine. And then there was a bit of banter. And Jenkins was like, just basically trying to tell the referee that's happening. And the referee's like, no, look, you do your job, I do mine. I don't think this should be allowed. You shouldn't allow someone that's not in the game, not the captain, to come onto the field and, challenge the referee on their decisions. And this is just really not acceptable. I think he should be fined. Jenkins should be fined for talking to Matthew Renaud like that. So Ireland has retained the Six Nations, and there were some talks that Peter Romani wants to retire. I'm not sure if he actually retired yet. It's a couple of days ago, but it was said that he wants to retire. But Andy Farrell was like, "Hey, we're gonna have a talk with him and see if we can keep him for a bit, or if he actually wants to go immediately following this win." Malu Tuilangi has played his last game for England. By the looks of it, he was on the field for a little bit late in the second half against France, and he's confirmed that he's leaving for Bayonne. He's left the Sharks, Sales Sharks. Danny Kerr has announced the intentional retirement, 101 test matches, kicking the win away against France on the weekend. I thought that was a pretty poor decision from his part to kick to the very shallow box kick. Kind of like the Springboks one against France, but it didn't work out for England this time. Ramos was able to get a penalty and kick 50 meters to win the match. So Danny Kerr, thanks for your service and good luck. So Scotland has lost to Ireland as well. Despite losing all the games, the Scottish team kind of insisted that they're improving. I do think that the game against Ireland was a very, very good performance by Scotland, and much better than their loss against Italy. And I do think that consistency is always an issue for Scotland. It's not about the skill level has always been there, right? They can be right up there for Scotland, but it's just the fluctuations. Something that the Scottish team needs to get out of the system. I don't know how they're gonna do that. Maybe some mental coach, but that's Scotland. And it looks like Scotland has been relegated to the lower ranks of the pecking order. They will be going to play some pretty easy B teams in the July Test Series. Going to play Canada, USA, Chile, and Uruguay in July. And for Tier 1 nation, I really thought maybe they should be playing like Argentina. But they played Argentina last year. Yeah, a bit unfortunate for them to be not having a Tier 1 nation from the Southern Hemisphere to play against in July. And then we go on to talk about Super Rugby now. The biggest news out of Super Rugby last week is the Crusaders losing 4 games in a row for the first time in the history of Super Rugby. And they're looking at five losses in a row this weekend against the Blues at Eden Park. And the Blues has got some big names returning as well. Patrick Tuipulotu is back in the Blues fold. So yeah, the Crusaders only made one starting change this week. And it is going to be, let me see if I can pick it out as well. Yeah, Roy Hanna. No, not him. Who is the only change that they made? Anyway, so they made one change in the team, but it's not looking good for the Crusaders. Scotty Barrett's still injured, and a lot of the players are still out of action as well due to injuries. Yeah. So next up, so with my Malu Tuilangi leaving Sales, Naya Thalevu, the Fijian captain from the Rugby World Cup, has been filled in for the Sales, which is really, really good. Finally, Rugby World Rankings. Italy has moved up to 9th, ahead of the Wallabies. They did beat the Wallabies last time they meet, so it probably makes sense. As Wales moved all the way down to 10th in the overall rankings. South Africa is still well ahead in number 1. But boy, they're coming for you. They're coming for you. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. And thanks to anyone who supports me financially. I've got a store that sells some t-shirts about how, about Scrum is rugby, something that I'm really passionate about. So if you want to check those out, buy a couple of those, feel free to do so. And yes, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good week. And I'll see you guys this weekend for Super Rugby. Cheers.